done. You ain't gonna be able to get that bag. Chill out. We cleaning up, baby girl.
Cassidy just dropped a major revelation. According to him, ROC Nation made him untouchable, but not in a good way. Behind the scenes, things changed overnight. Endorsements disappeared, partnerships ended without warning, and his visibility practically erased. Now he's finally speaking out. In a recent interview, the Philadelphia MC pulled back the curtain on ROC Nation's quiet control over the entertainment world. While most artists stay silent, Cassidy chose a different path, calling out what he believes is blatant industry gatekeeping. And this wasn't some off-the-cuff rant. It was deliberate, direct, a calculated challenge aimed straight at one of the most powerful forces in music. Jay-Z's leadership, Cassidy claims, ROC Nation doesn't just influence music, it dominates it. And according to him, that power isn't always used to uplift others. He recalled how brand deals suddenly vanished. Business associates began to pull away, and the phone. It stopped ringing. All of it, he says, came after he pushed back against certain industry decisions.
Being mad to being happy that he coming, to now he talking to me, so I'm back mad again. I'm thinking about all the shit they saying on the radio. I'm thinking about how he talking right now, and I'm thinking about who I am, and I'm like, yo, this is disrespecting me. Like, what are you talking about?
While Cassidy didn't directly accuse Jay-Z of orchestrating it all, he strongly suggested that ROC Nation operates like a well-oiled machine, where silence is calculated, and retaliation doesn't need to be loud to be felt. Things escalated. Further, when Memphis Bleek, a longtime ROC Nation insider and trusted ally of Jay-Z, publicly responded, that moment marked a serious shift in this growing conflict. But here's where the story gets even more disturbing. Cassidy didn't hold back. He warned that challenging ROC Nation's quiet dominance isn't just bold, it's dangerous. According to him, it could cost you everything. In his own words, the moment you question the system, they make sure you don't eat. And he wasn't just talking about music. He meant everything: tours, brand deals, podcast invites, even basic interviews. One by one, the doors start closing. No explanations, no headlines, just silence. Cassidy painted a chilling picture of how fast an artist can go from buzzworthy to invisible, not because they lost talent, but because powerful gatekeepers decide they're no longer safe to be around. And that's the point. He says, this is how control works now. You're not blackballed in public. You're quietly erased behind the scenes. With a few phone calls, no noise, no mess, just total isolation. But Cassidy didn't just make this about himself, he turned the spotlight on the next generation of artists, especially the independents. The ones who won't sign to major management teams or refuse to align with certain power players. For them, the message is clear. Challenge the system, and you risk becoming invisible.
They want me to come with Roc Nation, right? And what they want to offer me on Roc Nation, they want to offer me a songwriting deal. You know what I'm saying? Like where I do songwriting. So basically, they don't want to give me an artist deal right now. They got credits on Jay-Z first Reasonable Doubt album. Even right now, Peter Panic didn't get his shmoola. He didn't get his racket. He didn't get his Gus.
These artists might go viral, build loyal fan bases, and create truly great music. But when it's time to level up, to take that next step suddenly, everything goes quiet. No features, no media coverage, no label support. And what makes it even more chilling is how normal Cassidy says this has become. They don't need to say your name, he revealed. They just call the right people. And suddenly, you don't even have a lane to stand in. That kind of control, sounds dystopian, but it closely echoes what many artists have hinted at for years. So while some critics may brush off Cassidy's words as outdated frustration, the truth is, he's not the only one sounding the alarm, and that's the twist. When you start hearing the same pattern from multiple voices, it doesn't sound like coincidence, it starts to feel like structure, like a system. In Cassidy's words, this isn't paranoia, it's policy. And once you see it that way, the industry's silence starts to feel louder than ever. It becomes something else entirely, a quiet, calculated strategy, a way to punish those who won't fall in line. This silence isn't random. It's not passive. It looks a lot more like enforcement. And to understand how deep it runs, let's walk through a real example step by step. Starting with Gilly Kid. Long before podcast fame, Gilly was one of Philadelphia's most respected lyricists, in the early 2000s. His group Major Figgis caught the eye of ROC Fella. A deal was on the table, but according to Gilly, the terms were insulting. 7 group members were offered just 12 points on the contract. That split meant they'd need to sell an impossible number of records just to make decent money. So Gilly said no. He stood his ground. And that's when the temperature changed. His cousin Wallow later claimed Jay-Z took the rejection personally, even saying, reportedly, "I'ma make it hard for you."
They wanted to give me $350 with a $75,000 signing bonus. And I was like, nah, they want it. And he like, yo, you know what $75,000?
While Cassidy never mentioned Gilly by name, the parallels are hard to ignore. Stand up to ROC Nation. refuse a deal. And it's not just a cold shoulder you get, it's a full lockout. Calls suddenly stop. Meetings vanish. Opportunities disappear, almost like they never existed. And it doesn't stop there. Take Tory Lanez, for example. He reportedly turned down a ROC Nation deal, but he didn't keep it quiet. He went public, even accusing the company of cultural theft. And then, almost like clockwork, the Megan Thee Stallion situation exploded. Now here's what makes this even more alarming before any legal verdict. Before the facts were fully clear, the backlash against Tory was already in motion. His music got pulled from major playlists. His streaming numbers dropped, and radio play. It vanished practically overnight. The speed of it all, it didn't feel like public outrage alone. It felt internal, coordinated, deliberate. Whether you believe Tory was guilty or not, one thing is hard to deny. The industry's reaction wasn't driven by facts. It was driven by affiliations. And, once again, an artist outside the ROC Nation circle found himself shut out. This isn't just a coincidence. It's a pattern. Refuse, resist, or speak out against ROC Nation. And the response isn't loud. It's silent and surgical. Every new case follows the same blueprint. Push back, and you don't hear noise. You feel the eraser. Now take Nicki Minaj. During a tense moment in her label situation, ROC Nation stepped in with an offer, a deal through Tidal, backed by promises of elevated branding and new exposure. But Nicki trusted her instincts. She declined the deal. She didn't like the energy, didn't like the direction things were heading. So she walked away before it got messy. That decision preserved her independence, but it also put distance between her and a powerful machine. And she's not the only one. Now, let's talk about Lil Wayne.
Jay-Z like the nicest, what? He like the nicest where? Like, he like, him? He like, this nicer than who? He ain't nicer than my niggas. You ain't just heard my niggas that I had on the radio?
Lil Wayne's history with ROC Nation is even more complex. He's reportedly turned down multiple offers from the label over the years. But one moment, in particular, raised serious eyebrows. During the 2024 Super Bowl, held in New Orleans, Wayne's hometown, the world expected him to headline. It was his city, his legacy, his people. But when the lights came on, it wasn't Wayne on stage. It was Kendrick Lamar, a known rival of Drake, front and center, and the show. Produced by ROC Nation. Now, maybe it was just business. Maybe it was about mass appeal. But to many, it felt personal, especially considering Wayne's repeated decision to stay independent, consistently turning down ties with ROC Nation. Once again, an artist who didn't sign found himself excluded from a defining moment, and he's not alone. Lorsa, a rising star from the Bay Area, has echoed the same story. He says ROC Nation approached him with an offer that looked polished on the surface, but in his words, it was just a lowball with shiny lights. He didn't just reject the deal. He made it public, explaining exactly why he walked away. Another artist choosing independence, but risking industry ties in the process. Then there's OG Product. Injustice Pen. OG Product claims ROC Nation passed on him not because of talent, but because they couldn't control his message. Injustice Pen, a figure tied to songwriting royalty, took it even further. He says key contributors to Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z's debut album, were never fairly compensated. In fact, one artist alleged that ROC Nation took full control of a track without honoring the proper credits or royalty splits.
If I would have signed this $15K, would you have told me you made a mistake? And then you made a $750,000 mistake? I don't want to do business with who make mistakes that big. You gonna f my business up.
These stories, scattered across time and genre, all seem to point in one direction. ROC Nation, despite its massive influence, appears to demand more than just music. It demands silence, loyalty, alignment, and for those who say no, the response isn't scandal, it's exile. Not loud, not messy, but precise, quiet, and strategic. Cassidy's recent revelations didn't just stir controversy, they peeled back the curtain on something deeper, something that suggests ROC Nation isn't just signing artists. It's deciding who gets hurt, who disappears. And those decisions, they rarely come with an explanation. No press release, no warning. If you're in, the machine moves for you. If you're out, it moves past you without looking back. This isn't about bad contracts anymore. It's about control over visibility. Control over who headlines a festival, who performs on late-night TV, who gets brand deals, and who fades away no matter how talented they are. Silence becomes a weapon. Erasure becomes strategy. And how has ROC Nation responded to all this? Not with denials, not with lawsuits, but with calm, curated messaging. In public interviews, co-presidents like Shari Bryant and Omar Grant speak carefully. Their words are polished, vague, and always on brand in one moment. Grant even described how they sign artists by simply saying, "We go off gut." At face value, that sounds artistic, subjective, honest, but Cassidy pointed out what many missed. Gut is vague on purpose. It's a shield. It allows executives to say no without ever explaining why. Didn't get a callback. We didn't feel it. Dropped from a tour, not a brand fit. Album delayed, just instinct. With language like that, control becomes invisibly yet absolute. There's no blacklist, just absence. No silencing, just strategic silence. And with ROC Nation's influence stretching from streaming playlists and halftime shows, 2 podcast appearances and brand campaigns, they don't need to say much to make a loud statement. So when Cassidy warned that silence isn't just a byproduct of this industry, but a tool, a calculated mechanism, he wasn't just speculating. He was pointing at the very architecture that artists walk into every day, often without realizing what they're giving up, because once that machine stops moving for you, it rarely turns back. ROC Nation cosign doesn't just boost a career, it reshapes the entire playing field. So when Cassidy said he was locked out, and ROC Nation simply replied, "We just didn't feel it," the subtext was clear. We own the gate, and only we decide who walks through it. That's a level of control few will publicly admit exists, but most in the industry silently acknowledge. Once Cassidy connected the dots and drew a direct line to Jay-Z, the response came quickly. Enter Memphis Bleek, Jay-Z's longtime soldier, a man whose loyalty runs deep. Bleek once turned down a $75,000 deal just to stay loyal to Jay's vision, and that loyalty has only grown stronger over time. So when Cassidy's accusations gained traction, Bleek didn't stay quiet. Word spread fast, he clapped back. Not with subtlety, but with purpose, he made it clear. Cassidy had crossed a line. This wasn't about lyrical smoke. It was about principle, loyalty, code. Bleek has always stepped in when ROC Nation's name is under fire, and this wasn't his first time. When Nicki Minaj appeared frustrated over being left off the Super Bowl lineup, a production backed by ROC Nation, blog headlines suggested friction with Jay-Z. Bleek didn't call her out directly, but his message was unmistakable. He reposted a clip of Jay-Z calmly explaining, "People don't get mad at me for what I've done. They get mad when I don't do something for them." That quote, it wasn't just aimed at Nicki or Cassidy. It was ROC Nation's entire posture in one sentence. Bleek doubled down on that stance, telling critics to back off. Because in ROC Nation culture, loyalty is currency, and expecting rewards without allegiance. That's where the problems begin. Cassidy's story isn't just about rejection, it's about what happens when you question a system built on silence, influence, and power no one talks about. And now that the conversation is public, more names are starting to emerge. Because once you challenge the gatekeepers, they don't forget. To Memphis Bleek, Cassidy's claims weren't shocking revelations, they were noise. A tantrum disguised as truth, frustration dressed up as facts. He didn't need to go on a press tour. He didn't need a long rebuttal. That's not his style. Bleek's loyalty is quiet, sharp, strategic. He's ROC Nation's silent enforcer, watching, protecting, and stepping in when needed. But now, that unwavering loyalty is being tested, because what's surfacing might be far more unsettling than fans ever imagined. At the center of it all, Desiree Perez, CEO of ROC Nation. She's now the focus of explosive allegations outlined in court documents. And this isn't your typical industry drama. These are claims involving fraud, illegal wiretaps, and even more disturbing, accusations that she institutionalized her own daughter under false pretenses, with help from people pretending to be Nike executives. The implication? That ROC Nation's internal power structure isn't just aggressive, it may be weaponized. This paints a much darker picture, a system where legal influence and personal coercion intersect behind closed doors. And if any of it is true, Cassidy's story isn't an outlier. It's just the first crack in a much bigger wall. A system where silence isn't just encouraged, it's enforced. Socially, legally, emotionally. And here's the twist. This isn't about playlist placements anymore. It's not about tours or TikTok trends. It's about total control. A machine that doesn't just manage artists. It molds the entire industry, from brand deals to mental health systems. If these tools are being manipulated in secret, then ROC Nation's silence isn't just intimidating, it's potentially criminal. What once felt like a personal grudge is now looking like a structural reckoning, and fans they've been watching, piecing it together. Those conspiracy theories, once dismissed, they're starting to look more like early warnings. One social media post didn't just co-sign Cassidy, it broke it down. Quiet removals, vanishing opportunities, sudden shifts in media energy. If these claims start lining up with legal documents and artist testimonies, then ROC Nation's playbook might soon be fully exposed, and that long silence finally shattered. At first, this may have sounded like just another rabbit hole, but when fan suspicions start echoing real-life artist experiences, the line between theory and truth begins to blur. Cassidy's blunt accusations, they were just the beginning. From Nicki Minaj quiet exits, to artists like LaRusso, Tory Lanez, and Gilly Da Kid hinting at invisible barriers, one truth keeps rising to the surface. Something deeper is happening behind ROC Nation's polished brand, and the silence from the top, especially from Jay-Z, Desiree Perez, and other executives only fuels the suspicion. No public statements, no denials. just that cold, calculated stillness. Meanwhile, insiders and disillusioned artists keep leaking fragments of the bigger picture, and now, sources say another ROC Nation affiliate is preparing to speak out. More names are circulating, more stories are coming to light, and this is no longer contained within hip-hop. It's spilling into pop, R&B, even the business world, because the question isn't what if anymore, it's who's next. How many voices have been buried under silence, contracts, and pressure to conform, and who has the courage to bring them forward? If you've been paying attention, you already know. This story is just getting started. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you believe will speak out next? And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell, because what's coming next might change everything you thought you knew.